Well, good morning, good afternoon to everybody. Thanks for joining us for another Office 365 Productivity Tips webinar. Thomas, how are you this fine day?
It's Monday, start of week. Anything can happen, and probably will.
That's a positive outlook.
There you go.
Well, great. Well, for those that everybody who's joining, thanks for joining this. I know I had a good room of folks. I was out at SharePoint Fest Seattle this last week and gave kind of a best of top 20. It's just not the same energy without you there, Tom.
I know. I'm the face of this whole endeavor.
Well, I didn't say surprised. It was a bad energy. I just said it was different. It was not the same.
Oh, I knew I shouldn't have gone there. But yeah, okay, let's go on.
All right. Well, for those that might be new to this, just some quick introductions. My name is Christian Buckley, the founder and CEO of CollabTalk. I'm an 8-time Microsoft MVP in the Office apps and services space. And like Tom, I'm a big fan of individual and team productivity solutions. I've got a blog out at buckleyplanet.com. You can also find all of these recordings, so all the stuff that Tom and I do together out on the CollabTalk YouTube page. So highly recommend you go and subscribe to that. And but that's my info. Feel free to reach out. And Tom.
And that's me. And Cambia Health Solutions is who I work for. It's an insurance company in the Pacific Northwest. I'm not an MVP. I'm not selling anything. I just am a person who started doing these tips, and it kind of grew into something much bigger than what I expected, and eventually ended up being the external blog 1 Minute Office Magic, where you'll see these and many other tips talked about on a regular basis.
So if it takes more than a minute to read one of your posts, isn't that false advertising, Tom?
I would hope that you could read my post in less than a minute. Now, whether you can do it or not is a different story, but hey, you know.
Yeah, that's actually a good caveat. Doesn't mean it takes a minute to do the things, but to read through and get the tips. And the goal with these is not that, it's like you may have heard of some of these. My hope is if there's one or two things which you've never heard of or not familiar with that you may be able to put to use, then we've done our jobs. That's our goal.
Right. Because we can't come up with everything or 10 tips that are going to resonate with everybody at exactly the same level. If you walk away with one or two and you go, wow, that's awesome, then yeah, like Christian said, we did our job as far as we're concerned.
Now, if there are all 10 tips resonate with you, please let us know. You're like that golden customer that we've never reached before. Well, I have to share the stats.
Yeah, you do, don't you?
Yeah, so we do keep track of these things. So we are going to have some poll questions at the end of each round. But here's how we do this. We do this kind of head-to-head battle of sorts. It's all with love. Come on.
Tussles, head-to-head right. Tussles.
So we're going to take turns, and we're going to go through a round. So I'll kick things off, and then Tom will take a turn, and then we'll have a poll, and then Tom will go first, and I'll share something, and then we'll have another poll. So the idea is that it's going to be apples versus oranges on these. Like very rarely have, like, Tom, have you done a OneNote? And I've also done a OneNote tip. So you can really vote head-to-head on that item. So more likely it'll be like Tom presents something about Excel and mine is on PowerPoint. And so you have to vote your conscience based on which you personally think is, hey, this one is actually more useful for me. There's
because each tip is going to be like, hey, this is really applicable to what I do right now, or hey, this is just really cool. I may never use it, but I really like it, or hey, I need something from Tom later on, so I'm going to vote for his stuff. And
will he delay my migration?
Not if I get your vote, that's for sure.
Also, there are no duplicates. So Tom and I are very careful. We keep a running list of everything that we've ever shared over the last couple of years. And I'm still on my task list of to-dos before the end of this year is to make this searchable database available. And so Tom and I, and Tom, I'm going to host that third party, so you can host that, or you can provide links to that out on your website as well. It'll just go out to Power BI. But they're never duplicates. a couple times where we've had duplicates because Tom and I go through a lot of stuff and we were forgetting before we were keeping that Excel spreadsheet, the list. And what we've always done is gone back after the fact and added in another tip. But if there is a duplicate, then it cancels all points for that person.
Wah, wah, wah.
Both felt the bitter sting of. Audience votes after each round. We always say this, no hitting below the belt.
And I always say I'm short, so that's the only place I can hit. So yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the game. And then we have that winner-based and overall voting. You get to be the grand poobah of productivity for the month, or whatever the title is. What is the official title? I don't know.
Grand poobah, I actually like that. That goes back to the whole, Flintstone days. I like it.
Yes, that's right. All right. Well, with that, you ready to go, Tom?
Go ahead. Take your first shot there, my friend.
All right. Let's do it. Round one, ding, ding, ding. I need the bell. That's what I need, the sound effect.
That's what we need because, the bell would be perfect because that just
got that.
Really doesn't work very well. Yeah.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right. So this is one that I don't know if this is relatively new and you might not be aware of this, but is the quick poll that's within Outlook capability. Now, Outlook has had the ability to, of course, you could always just provide a link out to a form, but now this is an add-in. It's an app that can actually have integrated into Outlook so that you can integrate these quick polls. And it's not for the complex multi-question surveys. It's not that kind of robust. This is more of a pulse survey where I want to go and add a single question and push it out to my team, out to a group of users, and just get some quick feedback. I mean, you could send out a quick insert a poll and say, where do you want to eat lunch today? McDonald's, Taco Bell, and then, have them fill in an option there. So that's probably not the professional use of it, but that's the real world scenario, people. Come on. So,
this is how it really works in the real world.
Exactly. So you go out to the Microsoft Store and you do a search for the quick poll for Microsoft Forms. You find it, and there's a quick, it's free. It's a quick registration. If you're not already using Forms, then you basically need to have an account. For me, it was easy. Sign in. I was already a Forms user, so it quickly authenticated against that account and opened up. But you also, as you're deploying it on your tenant, and realize that for Office 365, so you need to have, if you're going to try and deploy it out to beyond yourself, you need to have the right administrative rights to be able, the permissions to be able to do that. But you can deploy this just for yourself, for your own Outlook instance. It's a great tool that way. But you also have the ability, you see the deployment method. If you are an admin and want to roll this out to the team, you have the ability to do really kind of two things. Is one, push it out so that everybody has it with their Outlook de facto, it's there as an add-in. Or you can make it searchable or removable by users. So it's a little more flexibility if they never use it, they don't want to bog down their ribbon with these apps that they never use. But you have those options for the deployment. So when you go and create a new meeting invite, and then you see there in the Forms button an email that's going out or a meeting invite, either one you can insert this into. And so as you add that in, it opens up the quick poll over on the right side. You add your simple question. There's my advanced question, Tom. This is a test question. And then it answers, of course, 1 and 2. I always have some fun with these little quick demo screenshots. But once you insert the poll into the email, and so it looks like that, the view vote in browser link there, but there's actually a more, there's a user interface that's inserted in here. This is what it looks like here. So jump to the next screen. So when you receive the email, it has this more graphical view of that poll with the bold text and the answers that you can vote and view the results right there. After you have responded, you've answered that question. I went with answer number 2. It also shows you then the results. So it confirms that you voted, shows your tally there on the right side. Now, if I do want to go in and click and look at this within the browser version, if I didn't want to click on it through email, I don't trust it, or I just want to have that more dynamic, beautiful experience for my one poll question. You do that. There it is. It opens up in Forms. You can then view the results, and it looks the same that way. And I voted twice. Because I found out in my county here, it's pretty common. People always
vote often
on everything. So, yeah. So anyway, so that's it. It's just a quick and easy way for a pulse survey or poll right there from within Outlook and capture that data. Quick and easy, but a useful little tool.
Yeah, I like this one because I've never been a huge fan of the Outlook voting option. To me,
it's very limited and it adds it up in the header. Most people are familiar with that one. Yes, no, approve, reject, kind of simple. But this allows you to add a dynamic question. Yep.
Yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to hear about this one after this call with people going, "Hey, Tom, how do I get that, Tom?"
Yeah, exactly.
Stupid Christian.
Over to you.
Yeah, so let me switch over to mine. And my tip that I will be sharing is on updating hyperlinks in a Word document. This was something that came up recently. We're in the middle of a migration. So not only do we have web pages that have links, but there's also documents that have links to different things, and our URLs are changing, so on and so forth. And somebody was saying, I've got to go into the Word document and call up each link and do, insert, hyperlink, edit, find it, go on to the next one. Is there a way that I can edit all of these or do a find and replace for things? And actually there is. If you do Alt F9 when you're in a Word document, it will actually display the underlying hyperlink so you can edit it or do find replace or things like that. So here's an example of a document. I've got the Bing and Google search engine URLs sitting there, no big deal there. There we go. When you press Alt F9, what it does is it actually exposes the underlying hyperlink. So now, instead of seeing just the word Google or just the word Bing, I will actually see the URL involved, and I can now do, as I said before, the find, replace, things like that. So in this case, I wanted to change the HTTP to HTTPS on everything. So I just did, the editing here for find, replace, change it from HTTP to HTTPS, do replace all, that's cool. And you'll see that it's updated the two instances of HTTP that I had in this particular document. So when I go ahead and exit out of the document or save it, exit out, open it back up again, you'll see that all my URLs have changed to now have HTTPS in front of it. This was one of those things that I didn't know existed, but as soon as it came up and Sandra said, "Oh, look what I found," and we started giving that hint to people, they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is perfect," because it did allow them to do a lot of work at once. So this is something that's built into Word. It's apparently been there for quite a while, and feel free to use it, and it will probably save you a whole lot of time in terms of editing documents if you have a lot of hyperlinks going on.
It's just one of those common problems people had asked about for a long time, and I'm glad to see Microsoft is, across, the Office apps as well as, SharePoint and other places where they realize that, hey, this is the problem. People are adding these links. Organizations that were building some pretty advanced scripts to go and be able to fix some of these issues.
Yeah, because in a lot of cases, we've got documents where the front part of the URL, which used to be one thing in our SharePoint 2010 environment, changed to another domain, which is the SharePoint Online one, but everything else in the URL has pretty much stayed the same. This enables them to do a mass change in seconds rather than spending minutes or more on each particular document trying to update all the links that are in there.
Right. Well, the poll is live, so you can vote for the quick poll via Outlook or updating hyperlinks in Word docs.
Those are two pretty cool tips.
Yeah,
right off the bat.
I like it when we're able to share the stuff that like I actually use these things. You know, there's others that are nice to have, but they're more of the rarely. You know, we
Right.
have a scenario, but these are actively used.
Oh, I won that one. I was kind of
Wonderful.
thinking you were going to take that one, Christian.
Ah, yeah, good job. All right.
I would have voted for you, but I can't vote. Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Okay, so round two. This is a tip that I don't know if it's so much as a tip as it is a warning. Because this is one thing when I explain it, some of you are going to go, hey, that's really cool. The other ones are going, over my dead body.
The
And there is a
productivity
way
tips
that
webinar has taken an ominous turn.
bomb, bomb, bomb. So if you're in Teams and you have chats, you've always been able to click on the exclamation point so you could mark something as important, puts a nice little red exclamation point in the chat, and everything's fine. But now what they've done is they've added a feature called urgent. And when you use the urgent feature, it actually pings the user every 2 minutes for up to 20 minutes until they look at your message. Now that's really great if you have to get somebody's attention, but this is one of those things you don't want to overuse it, because I will tell you, if somebody were to start doing this to me on a regular basis, I would probably end up blocking them in some way, shape, or form, because I don't want to be pinged every 2 minutes for something or be taken out of the flow. But anyway, for your edification, should you choose to use this.
Tom, I have to go to an Office quote, but it's the Michael Scott. It's like, everybody knows I marked them urgent 1, urgent 2, urgent 3, and urgent 4. Urgent 1 is really important. Urgent 4 you don't even need to really read.
Yeah, it's like, well, which priorities are most important? They're all important. Which one is the most important? They're all really important. It's like then none of them are important. So that kind of comes in play on this one. So in this case, I've got a message. I want to know where we're going for lunch. I happen to think that's urgent. So when I click the exclamation point, I now have this urgent option here. And it warns me that the people are going to be pinged every 2 minutes. And then it comes up, here's the formatted message, urgent, notification. If you're really sure that you aren't going to burn bridges by doing this, then click the send icon. And then what happens is it shows up in the chat, and it shows up as urgent, has the nice little bell icon now. And this is what they see down here. From me, urgent, this is urgent, and that will keep happening until they actually go out and look at this. Again, this is a case of using it sparingly. If everything comes across as urgent, then nothing is urgent. It should be used only for emergencies, or if there's cake in the break room. It's a good way to cut through clutter and get attention. For those of you who may be admins and you're like, oh my gosh, I do not want to open this Pandora's box, you are able to set a messaging policy in Teams that will deactivate this. And I have a feeling it's going to be deactivated in a lot of different locations.
Well,
but it is.
Tom, can an admin? I mean, can you limit only like to a security group of who has the ability to use a feature like this?
There may be, because they did say messaging policy. I don't know, since I'm not really a Teams admin, how refined you can get that. I don't know if it's a blanket all or nothing type thing, but
yeah, because that was something that like a lot of intranets where when people would go in and have the ability to turn on and off alerts. And I'm trying to remember which tool this was, but the admin was able to override that and force everyone to go. And it's almost like having an internal version of an Amber Alert type thing, where it overrides all systems, and whether or not you've turned off the notifications, it still shows up.
Yeah,
I don't know if it does that kind of thing, but
I'm not sure. I think they said that by default it's turned on when these changes were pushed out to everybody. There were some instances where it would come in as default equals off, but they said you do have the option to change it. And it sounded like it was also it's unlimited priority messages until like the end of the year. And then it sounded like they were going to do some sort of a chargeback for, maybe you have like X number of free priority messages, and after that they start charging you extra. They didn't go into great detail on that, but it sounded like it may be kind of an add-on type thing. So probably don't get used to it. Definitely don't overuse it, but it is out there if it's absolutely necessary. Like there's cake in the break room.
Excellent. Yeah, if everything's urgent, nothing is urgent.
Exactly.
So here is something that is, I don't know, Tom, if you're using this, but did you know that OneNote has note-taking templates?
Yes, I did know that, and I have used them in the past. I don't use them a lot right now, but they are really cool to have in place.
And the reason this came up was actually I was talking about this. Like I don't use them, but it just came up in a conversation with somebody where they asked, or they kind of opined that it would be great if they could just duplicate, and they were copying and pasting between pages. And I said, well, you know, you can always go and make that format, that layout that you created, just a template. And they weren't aware of this. And so it's, you know, within the ribbon, pretty easy to go and find there. Just up at the top, you have the page templates. Just go to insert page templates, and then it opens that up and gives you options. Like so I've used a couple in the past, and so it's the most recently or the most frequently used templates will automatically, you know, kind of pin to the top there, but you just select the page templates to get into the entire menu. And that, let me see, open up, there we go. Opens up, and you can kind of then navigate through the different options that you have. And they're all stylized sheets, which you can modify and you can save anew. So you get, it's not just the, hey, in this order, the bullets, the items, because we all know, like we've all taken notes in meetings. We know all this information. However, sometimes we neglect to add little pertinent pieces of information. So having that template there to make sure that for all of our team meetings, they're uniform, but also being able to go and do the background, the formatting there as just kind of a nice touch when you're reading through all of these or searching through the databases of notes and pulling data together. But as I said, you have the ability to go in and modify this and then save it as a new template. And so so if you go in and make those modifications, down at the bottom, you have that save current page as a template. So make your modifications, change it, or just go from a blank canvas, add all of your formatting, and then go in and name your template. And you can even set that as the default for these meetings. Why this is becoming increasingly important is because we are creating more and more OneNotes. Like, it's my habit. I live and breathe inside of OneNote. But between your meeting invites, I'm constantly adding OneNote to every meeting invite going out, so that we have either, if I know that we want to have a shared resource, if it's one of my clients, then I'll do it as a shared resource. If it's just somebody that it's a phone call, but it's a meeting in my calendar that I want to take notes against and have it in the same place every time as part of that history, that I can just have it as my own notes. But with Microsoft Teams organizations, you by default have that OneNote that's set up as well. It's the wiki. I know there's the wiki tab in Teams. Few people are actually using the wiki tab. They're using OneNote, but you have this proliferation of OneNotes that are also being built. And so it's nice to have these templates so that you can have stylized. You can have a different template used for each organization, each recurring meeting, so that even the look and feel is unique.
Well, and what's cool about this too, like the example that you have there on your screen, if you're the type that also likes to use the email this page, that's going to lead to a really nice looking email that goes out to various people.
Exactly.
As opposed to just the straight text that you would normally see if you email. So
and you can save as HTML as well and publish out to your site. So
Sweet.
it has all that formatting.
Yeah, this is something I used to use sometime because I do a weekly status report for myself. I've almost found it easier now just to take the prior weeks, copy it over, and then, clean up some of the stuff that I want. But still, it's a real good time saver if you've got standard stuff that you want.
Agreed. Well, the
Where
poll is
is
live.
Oh, hold on just a second. We do have a question. Where is email this page? It should be up in your ribbon bar. I think it's under the home. And if you don't see it there, there's a, I think there's an add-in that you may need to reactivate or activate if you've never had it. James, why don't you go ahead and email me? The contact information will be at the end if you don't see it, and I'll see what I can do for you.
Yeah, the other option is that you can go into File, Share, and get a sharing link or share with the meeting, or so there's different options there as well.
Right. Cool.
All right, I'm going to close out the poll, and it is again 76 to 24, but in my favor this time. I remember, did I switch? Oh yeah, that's right. So here's one. Again, this was came out of a question about. This is just one of those simple little tips of adding an expiration date to the share. And so this is one of the things that with OneDrive, I mean, I share a lot of content via OneDrive. And so what I'll tend to do, if there's multiple items, I'll go in via the web. I'll create a folder. I'll share the folder with a group of people, put a number of artifacts within that folder, and I may put an expiration date on access to that folder. Generally, if I'm sharing something like that, it's not just an open-ended date. I'm actively working on something with them. This is, in this example, is like I'm just want to share out this one document. I want to share it with a couple people to go and edit, but I want to make sure that because I know I'm going to be back in there in 2 days and working on it again, I don't want other modifications coming in after that date. So maybe I want it to expire within 24 or 48 hours. And so you have that ability just to go in, right click on that share link settings and add expiration date and set that assigned date. Now, when you're sharing, if it'll move forward, there we go. So you get that sharing dialog box that opens. You then have, of course, the ability, as I'm sure everyone's familiar with, to change the permissions level of what they can do. Do you want them to view only, or can anybody edit that, or only named resources edit that, add those emails, and then go ahead and send? And so it's just a quick and easy way to have a little bit of control over those artifacts that you're sending out. Now, there is one little add I wanted to include here. You also have the ability to share. So this is like a tip 3.5 here for the third round and a half. But just as part of the shared dialogue, I had never really gone down like, what's that more apps button down below? So I went and Tom, do you know what that is? Do you know what it does?
I can't say that I do.
Yeah, I didn't know either. So anyway, so I go down in there as I'm in this dialog box and it opens up this share, and I've scrolled this down a little bit. But you have a number of options, like the turn on the nearby sharing, so sharing within your network, if you're internal. But you have the ability, again, that copy link, but Facebook, mail, Twitter, Skype, sharing it via Plex. I'm like, why would I want to share it via Plex? I don't know if anybody uses Plex.
Plex is cool.
But I use it actively. I've got friends that have servers that we share, and we're constantly sharing work-related videos and content via Plex as well. But you have those various options right from within that control, that dialog box as well, which I thought was really cool. So that's just kind of a little add-on there. But Microsoft has really streamlined the external sharing features. In fact, I was on a podcast with Chris McNulty and Mark Cashman from Microsoft last week, where we were talking about external sharing and the uniform way that Microsoft is approaching sharing across Office applications and across Office 365 workloads, which I think is fantastic. So if I go hit the share button in Word, I'm going to have similar experiences and capabilities, obviously, that are tuned to the nuances of the application. But like in Yammer or SharePoint or in Teams. So it's really great that they're doing that so that we have just this consistent experience. But I love just the right click on a file within wherever you are, up from the top of the application to navigate in and share this out, is to change the permissions and to put an expiration date on that sharing link. And after the date of that link, the link just goes dead. So you don't have to worry that it's floating out there that somebody might have access to that artifact.
Right. Very cool tip.
Right.
I like it.
Over to you.
Okay, the tip that I am sharing for my round 3 is Atlas mentions in Microsoft Team. Now, I will apologize that header with the A minus less kind of reminds me of a different way to spell a certain less than savory word. So it always looks funny. It's like, Atlas, okay.
Are we talking about chaps?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, chapless. There we go. Let's go with that one.
No. They are also A-list. Oh, sorry.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Okay, back on track now. So you can now do, God, now I'm not going to be able to get it out. Atlas mentions in Microsoft Teams. So if you've been using Microsoft Teams for some time and you want to try to highlight or notify somebody as part of a group chat or something like that, like conversation, you've always been able to put @ and then start typing their name. And once you get their name in there and you hit enter, then what it does is highlight their name and it will send them a notification if they have the right notification features turned on, things like that. Well, now what they do is you can now put in a person's name. Sort of kind of works like the Facebook does when you start typing in a person's name and it pops up a list of people that have that name or are close to that name, and you can just select those. So instead of having to get everything right, especially if their name's a little difficult to spell or something like that, what you can do is just start typing part of the name. Like in this case, I used Mahan, and it popped up and said suggestions. Oh, do you mean Sandra? Which in this case, yes, I did. So then when I select that as my option, and it puts it out in the message, it still does the same kind of formatting that the @ type naming convention did. But here, it got a lot more information for me with a lot less typing, and I didn't have to guess on, did I get the name right? Did I, I could type in @Peter, and then it could be SON or SEN. Using the suggested list, I can do @Peter, or not @Peter, just start typing Peter, capital PETER, and it's going to give me a list of suggested options. So I'm not going to have to guess at it, which will help immensely. So great situation when you don't know the exact spelling of somebody's name, or you just want to pick a name instead of trying to get it all right. So it's a nice little tip.
Yeah, I was so happy this ad. It's one of those things where I saw this before I saw the announcement for the change, and just noticed I forgot to put the @ symbol and just started typing someone's name and just started picking it up. Like, that's fantastic.
Yeah, when Jennifer Mason and Adam Oakes and I do the weekly Office 365 Pulse webcast, this is something that they both refer to as delighters. It's not something that you necessarily thought you wanted, but once you see it, it's like, oh, I really like that. And you don't want it taken away from you. So I kind of consider this in the delighter category.
That's a lot of the productivity tips. It's exactly that. It's not that they are groundbreaking, like, oh my gosh, it's going to say, but it's chipping away at the time that you spend doing additional clicks or going out of context of your work to do something. It's just, the minimalist automations.
Yes.
I love that. So I've got the poll open for round 3. So Tom, with the Atlas mention.
When I was putting this together yesterday, I thought, do I really want to use this tip? It's like, oh yeah, of course I do.
Great. Of course, now I'm never going to be able to see Atlas without thinking of that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Tom and chaps.
Yeah. Oh gosh, no, you really don't want to go down that mental path. Good luck with this one. ending your meetings early in Outlook. This is one of those features that I've known about for about 3 or 4 months that it was coming. And as soon as I did an internal version of this tip, the updates had not rolled out to everybody. But as soon as I sent it out, I immediately got deluged by emails coming up going, I don't see that yet. Where is it? Where is it? I want it now. Like, just you'll get the updates by the end of the week. Trust me. So in the latest version of Outlook, the client, I'm not sure whether this is in the web or not. I think it is, but it's definitely in the client. What you can now do is go into Outlook options, go into your calendar options, scroll down, and when you get here, instead of just saying, what's the default for my meetings and then default reminders, you've got this new entry down here for ending appointments and meetings early. So for meetings that are less than an hour, you can set how much earlier you want to end them. So in this case, if it's a 30-minute meeting, I'm going to end it at 25 minutes. If it's an hour or longer, I'm going to chop 10 minutes off the end. And the benefit of that, you're going, I wanted a 30-minute meeting. How come I'm only getting 25 now? A lot of times in the reality of today's business world, we are just going from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, and a meeting will run 2 or 3 minutes late, and it takes you 2 or 3 minutes to get there, which means you're 5 minutes late for the next meeting, and that just cascades down throughout the entire day, kind of like doctor's appointments. So what this does, it acknowledges the fact that you do need some time to go from one meeting to another if they're quote-unquote back-to-back, and you also should be showing some consideration for the next person's meeting, that you don't show up late to it, and so everybody's sitting around waiting for you to show up, and then it's having to cut it short again because of, the fact that you were late and you need to go to another meeting after that. This is a really good way to be courteous to your other meeting attendees and to give yourself that time to travel, take a potty break, whatever you need. This, I turned it on as soon as I saw it appear in our list of updates for Office 365 and Outlook. And I love it. And people are like, oh my gosh, I love this. I want to use it now. So really good feature. This is definitely, like we talked about, a delighter, because it's going to make people a lot less stressed trying to get from meeting to meeting to meeting.
Yeah, this is, besides ending early, I know most companies don't employ this type of technique. They must have an app to have meetings run over, every meeting run over, to get into those shared conference room spaces. This is
exactly
just nice. Well, it's something like I use a calendar app that doesn't allow, so it allows people that have the link that I share it with to go in and just auto schedule, and it automatically appears on my calendar. But depending on the location, there's logic in there that says, that allows for drive time or allows for a buffer. Can't have back-to-back meeting schedule that has to have at least 30 minutes in between. And it's just great utility to have. I just often forget that it's there, and I wish I could be done earlier, but I see why that's there. That buffer is there. So
exactly.
Well, cool. Well, let me. Sharing a task list with Microsoft To Do. Yes, that's right. It's another to do. Yeah,
you do love your to do, don't you?
But this is again, they keep making little additions. This is one of those things that we complained about. Now, there's half of what I've asked for is still missing. I'll come to that in a minute. But this is fantastic. So I'm showing you here. This is a screenshot of the desktop app version of it. I almost exclusively use it on my mobile device. But it looks very much the same. It functions all the same way. But now you have the ability to go in. Like I created this. I have a vlog that I do with Noah Sparks, and it's called Loop 365. And so here we've got some planning activities for this. But he and I were sending a lot of emails back and forth, and had to share OneNote but both of us are to-do users, and so it was great to be able to go and do this. And one of the things that I love about to-do, like if I have a list with Noah, I have a shared list with Tom, I have a shared list with my wife and kids of other tasks. What's beautiful about that is that I can go in there and look at my day's activities or by due date, what's out there, and show a blended view of all of those things. That's why this is incredibly powerful. Microsoft has a way to go in unifying the tasks, the task assignments, because I should be able to, if I'm working in Microsoft Teams and have tasks assigned to me within multiple planner project plans or project server or even Outlook tasks that I've created for myself, all of those things should be able to roll up into my Microsoft to-do lists. So I should have a unified view, and we're moving in that direction. So big first step is be able to go in, click on that sharing icon. I've already got Noah in here just as an example, but click on that. It opens up that dialog box. You can see Noah's there. I can then copy that link, share it out with anybody. Now, it is important to remember that anyone that has that link can then join. So if I send an email to Tom and Tom then shares it out with this entire organization, I might have some people that I didn't intend on that list. I could always remove them, but that's kind of a limitation of this kind of generic list sharing capability. I'm sure we'll see refinement happen over time. But what's nice about this is I can go in, as soon as I see Tom joins this, I can then go and turn that off. It essentially kills that link. So there are some controls that you have in place there. And again, once that's in there, I can then go in and I can start assigning, Noah, myself to different tasks. You see their picture show up. The other half that I mentioned that's missing, I want to be able to, and you can do this within Planner, I want to be able to assign multiple people to a task. And so that's not something you can do here. But there is, even within that task, you have the ability to go and say, well, there's 10 things that need to be done for the completion of this task. I'd also love to be able to assign Noah to 5 of the 10 and myself to the other 5, and then have that, that combined task to be completed. But here's just different views of, the planned today that are, you can look at it by due date, different filtered views of those tasks. Just a lot of ways you could look at that. But the fact that you can now share out lists in To-Do is pretty awesome. So that was a major oversight, I would say, in To-Do's launch that they finally rectified, and excited to see that.
Yeah, I think that, when To-Do first came out, I was like, oh, great, another To-Do list app, big freaking deal. And fortunately, Microsoft went a lot further and a lot faster with it than I thought they would. And it went from something where I was afraid to commit to doing anything with it because I thought it was going to go away, to where now it's like, no, it's here to stay, and they're doing some really cool things with it.
Well, exactly. I think that it's kind of like what I mentioned about Microsoft unifying the sharing experience. And they knew that task management was another area that needed to be unified and needed to be consistent across the various tools and applications. And so they've invested specifically in this unification of tasks. And they've got a lot of work to be done. They're dealing with different technologies, different platforms, some built in-house, some that were acquired. Right. So they're having to do a lot of re-architecting to get there. But it is something that they're working on, and it's a priority. So they've been talking about that for about a year and a half, and we're starting to see some of the fruits of that labor. And certainly, it's also, I should say, that where they're really putting a lot of emphasis is on the planner and project server, or project 365, and some of the other project management capabilities. But happy to see it within the end user productivity side of things as well.
Pretty much so.
Let me go ahead and Tom on that one. Let's go into round 5, final round. All right. Now, it's going to be a little underwhelming at first, Tom, but it's kind of a part 2. I'll get to the point here.
My
So this is,
curiosity is really intrigued here.
yes. So it's another OneNote. So this is where I was demoing something, a couple things in OneNote, and a guy that was in my session came up and was like, hey, have you, I thought you were going to go this direction with this. So of course we all know, and we've talked about before, that you can go in, you are creating a new meeting, you go into the meeting notes under appointment meeting notes and add that into your meeting. You have the ability to, as I mentioned earlier, share it with the entire meeting or just for yourself. And it goes and generates this. It creates, so there it inserts it into your meeting invite. So if I want to share meeting notes with everybody gets it. Over in OneNote, I've designated the notebook. It goes and creates a new page, inserts the information with the link out there, the organizer, and it has the notes. So, so this is a fairly standard capability to go and insert that. Now, here's what somebody pointed out to me. It says, now, once you have that in place, it automatically syncs with your mobile application. I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, he says he found that he is using the mobile app extensively. Once the page is there, the link is made with that page. He says he was going in and adding audio and video directly from his mobile device, snapping pictures of the group, of pictures of their location, of the whiteboard. I mean, all those kinds of things. If you don't have fancy equipment around you, everybody that's in that meeting that has access to those notes can go in there and add via pictures, video, and audio. So I went in and just did this sample. I said, that's right. If you have a low connectivity situation, but you've got your phone there with that link to those notes, and you can actually just record an audio recording or a video, it will automatically save to, once you're back online or via your cellular network, sync with those meeting notes. And you can have a very rich collection of artifacts saved to that OneNote page. So we'll add those icons. If you can kind of see there on the right side, the audio one, you can upload from the library, you can capture them live. And so that's something where, Tom and I have talked about, capturing video. In fact, that was the tip that I was sharing last week, Tom, was yours about adding the video. Right. And which is great. But if all you have is your laptop or your Surface Pro and you just have that onboard camera, and it's not exactly what you want to capture as an asset there, the fact that anybody that has access to that can have their phone and walk around and capture different angles, different images, different videos and audio from that same meeting and all shared to that one place is pretty awesome.
Yeah, this has just caused me to have a little bit of a light bulb moment in the sense that the Surface Book that I used to have, the prior version, had the camera on the back.
Yep.
And so when I would be in a conference or something like that, I'd be doing OneNote notes. I would basically flip it up, hit take picture, live scan, the whole bit. I was at a conference recently and I had my new Surface Book and I went to do that and I'm like, hey, where's the camera? It's like, oh, it's looking at me. This isn't going to work. And so in a case like that, I'll just take pictures and then I'll mesh them all back up later. I don't have to mesh them up all later. I can just, once I get the thing out there, I can just go directly to OneNote in my mobile client and take them directly from there and still keep up with the note taking on something that's got a real keyboard. So I really like this one. It's something that I will probably be using when Twin Cities comes up for SharePoint Saturdays. So cool stuff.
Well, what's cool about that too is you can create a meeting, invite other people that are in the audience, right, their friendlies, and let them automatically grab their pictures. So you're not going to them, hey, I saw that you took a couple pictures from my session. They're already there in the OneNote, in the meeting notes.
That's a good point. I like that. Cool.
Right, over to you, Tom.
So we found this out last week when we were having a meeting with our migration vendor, and we happened to click on the calendar link in Teams over here on the side. Now, if you remember what was over there before, I don't remember it very well because I never used it. It was just like a list of your meetings that you had. And it wasn't terribly visual, and it didn't work really well in my estimation. So it was like, yeah, I'm still doing my stuff out of Outlook because that's where I live. Well, when we clicked on Calendar now in Teams, it actually gives you a real calendar layout. So it's got all your meetings are synced up with each other so you can see what's going on, bringing in the information that you have in Outlook so you could do everything from here. And in this particular case, with the Microsoft Teams meeting, it actually gave me the join button here. So instead of having to go out, get the link from my calendar invite, click on that, wait for it to open, I can just click on join and it's going to open up right away in Teams. This, I think, is really cool. And I could see myself using Teams even more because I can now live with my calendar out here instead of having to pop back and forth and just go into Teams to do something and then come back out because it's not part of what I normally do on a daily basis. So this is something, if you're a Teams user, you might want to check it out and see if this works for you.
Yeah, this is another place where I think they've gotten a lot of feedback about the consistency of the user experiences across applications. And obviously many of us, we live inside of our calendars. If it's not on my calendar, I don't know that it happens. It doesn't happen if it's not on my calendar. I don't know.
Sometimes if it's on your calendar, you still don't know if it happens.
Doesn't happen for me. Yeah. Is that a slam, Tom? Are you referencing something in particular?
That's water under the bridge there.
Yeah. I know that the calendar experience of being able to go and create the Teams meetings. I don't know if you're still seeing this, where sometimes the option in Outlook, it'll like disappear from the menu of options to add that in there. It's just, there's still some quirks that need to be ironed out. I know they've gotten a lot of feedback, but it's I'm glad that they're working on kind of cleaning up this experience and making it more consistent with, because you think about it, it's all tied to that Office 365 group. It is a shared calendar. It's a group calendar, and so it should be a similar experience. All right, the final on that, Tom, you took that one 63-37. Congrats! You're at four and 1 rounds, so you dominated this time. And
thank you everybody who works with me that was in on this call. As soon as I finish my next meeting, which is coming up here, I'll start looking at any of your help desk cases.
It looks like the migrations were perceived this month. Congratulations, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. So just to wrap up, as I just mentioned, overall winner was Tom. His pretty picture will be up with the crown in the final slides, which we'll make available out on SlideShare, and we'll have the recording up on YouTube probably the end of today. So you should get that link, and I'm sure Tom will blast it out to everybody. Our next bout, the September scrimmage on September 24th. And
that will be a fun one.
Not about that, but he approved that date. So
it was funny because I was looking for my panelist invite. It's like, oh, there it is. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is September. I don't have anything on my calendar for September. And yeah, you're right. I did say that was an okay date.
It's there. Yes, it's happening, Tom. Yeah. There's a chance I could be out and we might do this together live. I don't know if I'll make it out there because I'll be in Seattle the whole week prior to that, but
that would be interesting.
And then, of course, thank you for attending. Again, please go out. If you go to YouTube/C/ and C is for channel /CollabTalk, and then you'll find the channel, and there's a playlist with all of the recordings that Tom and I have done over the last couple of years. So this is number, 16 or 17?
It's getting up there.
It's there. I think it's 16. But find out more if you go to buckleyplanet.com and, of course, the 1minuteofficemagic.com.
You betcha.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, everyone.
And thanks, Tom. As always, it was fun.
It was even more fun than it was last month when I lost.
Yeah, the last couple months for you. Yeah. Good for you.
That's right. Brother it in there.
I'm so happy for you, Tom. So happy.
Oh, I'm going to end up just face planning in September. I can tell it now.
That's right. All right. Well, everyone, back to your normal workday activities. But thanks a lot, Tom. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good week, everyone.